Welcome to the Uncensored Self Podcast. I am your host, Ryan Gillen, and this is a space where women who value achievement, success, accomplishment, and wealth, but also crave happiness, love, joy, and deep fulfillment come to remember that we get to have both. Not by doing more, but by being more of who we truly are. In this show, we explore identity, energy, alignment, and embodiment because you didn't come here to follow someone else's rules. You came to right your own. Let's dive in. Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Ryan Gillen, and today we are having a conversation about money. But the title of the show is It's Not About the Money, because this is actually a conversation about how our obsession with money and numbers is actually what is keeping us from what we want. And I'm going to be really honest with you. I have avoided creating content about money. I've been very honest that money has been my Achilles heel. It has been the thing that led me on so many things, right? And I also know that from a marketing perspective, if I talk too much about money, I'm going to wind up attracting a bunch of people that just want to make more money. And if your only goal is just to make more money, I'm not the coach for you, because most of the women who I have the blessing of serving, making money isn't actually their problem. It's keeping money. It's holding the money. It's feeling safe with the money, right? It's not about like, how do I do more? It's about something entirely different, right? How do I create with ease? So I've resisted it. And I've also resisted it because I have a little bit of imposter syndrome around it, because it has been my biggest thing. It is still the thing that I feel like I need the most work on. But I also know that nothing continues to show up in our world if it's not something we're meant to address. And the thing that I have been working on, and I have promised you all transparency and honesty in my journey of building an intuitively led business, is it's got to not be about the money. And this is something, guys, I've heard bajillions of times on this journey. As soon as you stop making about the money is when the money will come in. As soon as you stop making about the money, when the money comes in. And my instant thought with that was, but I'm running a business. Like, how can we run a business that's not about money? That's not about numbers. Like, I have to understand my P&L. I have to drive revenue in order to grow this business. And my revenue has to be at a certain place so that I can make the investments I want to make and pay my bills and all these things. Like, how do you make something not about money in a world that everything is about money? And so that has been my work, I would say, the majority of this year. And I'm just been like pulling it loose and pulling it loose and pulling it loose, and finally realized, like, this is what they meant. It's not that we can't have money as a goal. It's our relationship with money that is wreaking havoc. And I talked a lot about relationship with money on last week's podcast, right? But what's been revealed to me lately in conversations with clients, with prospects, with people interested in the work, is that every woman, no matter how much she makes, believes that money will fix her problems. And that was why I could not let go of money being a target, because the money would fix the problem. But here's the deal. High earners and women still struggling, like, they tell the same story. I have women in my world who are making a shit ton of money and still tell me, I just need more money, right? And then there are people who are not making nearly as much money that still say, I just need more money. But the truth is, and what we're going to dig apart and pull apart in this podcast, so you can finally break through like I have, is that you have to understand that it's not about the money. It's the story you're telling yourself about the money. There's a book that I recommend to all of my clients. It is called, of course, I can't think of it. It is Dollars Flow to Me Easily by Richard Dotz. Dollars Flow to Me Easily by Richard Dotz. And the biggest takeaway from the book, if you would like to skip the book, is the idea that the problem, I'm using that word intentionally, is that we think we have a money problem. If I could just fix the money problem. But the money problem is not the problem. It's the thoughts about money being the problem. That's the problem. I know that's a little esoteric, right? But if what we focus on, we create, and we consistently focus on a problem, we continue to perpetuate. So the key to moving through any problem, be it money or something else, is to loosen our hold on it, right? To shift our focus, to make it about something else. Because the law of attraction doesn't care whether you're saying yes or no, right? It just feels the vibration. So you're talking about, I don't have enough money and I'm worried about money. Am I going to be able to retire? Am I not going to be able to retire? If I could just hit this amount, then I could pay off all these bills and get rid of all this debt and move into this house. And then finally, right? The problem is not the money. The problem is that you continue to tell the story that the money is going to solve the problem. And as long as the money is absent, you have a problem, and you are always going to be in an energy of lack. You are always going to be in energy of lack. So the problem with believing that money is the solution, because if you think that money will solve everything, you will always stay in the mind game. You will always stay in the game of grind, hustle, deserving, proving. It is probably what you have used to create so for, right? It is why you have been successful. But if you think money will solve everything, you'll always stay in that mind game, because you realize it's not actually money that you want. When you learn to play the energy game, you realize that the money is not the thing, right? Because what you're thinking right now is, but Ryan, do you see my bills? Like, do you see payroll? Do you see tuition? Like, I need money. And I understand that the money does pay the bills, But money has never been the problem. Like Richard Dotz talks about in his book, the problem is the story we give money. We hand it all of our power. I cannot do that right now. I don't have the money. I can't do this because I don't have the money. I can't move into this place because I don't have the money. I need to make payroll. I need to do this. I need to do that. If I could just get there. Like, think about that. We've put all of this power in this form of this illusionary, fictitious thing that we have given our power to. Like, that is actually the problem. And so if you think that this illusionary thing outside of you is going to solve the problem, you don't realize that you're the one creating your reality. You don't realize that you're the one with the power. You've given away your personal power. Okay. And so the problem with believing that money is the solution is that you're always playing a game that is outside of you. You always think that something outside of you has to change in order for you to feel differently, for your circumstances have to change to feel differently. So again, you are in the mind game. You are in the false premise that circumstances are what create the feelings inside of you. The feeling that you're actually looking for is being created by the circumstance. That is the problem, right? And I've told this story before, but I think it's so, so, so important that I honestly think that I can now see the clear path as to why I went from a $1.2 million a year to like to barely scraping by very quickly is because I made it about the money, right? When it was like, okay, I knew that I was ending the business and the partnership. And so then I pivoted into a new brand, but I had expenses based on making $1.2 million. So not just my personal income, business expenses. I had employees, I had invested in masterminds, I had invested in coaching, like I'd invested in all these things. And so to me, I had to keep that all afloat, right? Like I had to continue to pay these people, and then I had to continue to pay my bills. And what's really funny is now when I look at my personal bills were never actually the problem. They were the business expenses. But I know that I don't have a problem making money. It was how I was spending the money and the stories I was telling myself about how I was spending the money and how much money I needed to bring in to make it happen. And so all of that chaos of like, well, I just need to get to this number. If I just get to this number, it covers everything. And I put all the power in the money. And there was no magic in that, right? There's no feeling in that. It was just go chase a dollar amount as quickly as possible to stop the bleeding. What is the energy behind that? What is the energy behind stop bleeding? It's I'm bleeding. Something is wrong. I am broken. And the universe doesn't speak English. It only speaks vibration. So it can only speak the lack. It could only feel my lack. And then the discomfort and the ego and everything that went around that, thinking that money was going to solve my problem. I had all my power outside of me. It was going to make me feel better. It was going to save me. It was going to make me finally feel worthy enough and good enough. And I quickly discovered that that is not the case. It is not the money that's going to make you feel worthy and good enough. And the reason why I know that is I speak from personal experience. Because even though my money is making a fraction of what it was, or my business is making a fraction of what it was making, the way that I feel is so different. The amount of money I hold on to and that I keep in the business is so different. But like, I have never been happier or having more fun than I was when I was having $100,000 months. When I was having $100,000 months, I was miserable. So I now have very true evidence that money is not the thing, that $100,000 month does not solve the problem if you are unhappy and unhealthy. But I can also tell you that you can exist on a whole lot less when you're happy and you're healthy and you're aligned and you're focusing on yourself, right? That's the important part here. For me, the money and the story was around, and that's why I couldn't hold it. I didn't have the identity of somebody who could easily hold money. I only had an identity of money being involved with struggle. And my nervous system was like, no, struggle's bad. We don't want to do that. And it went back to safe. Where was safe? Right? Where was safe? And it immediately retreated back to that. So you don't actually have a problem with making money. You have a problem with holding money, with your relationship with money, what you're making money mean about you and how much power you are giving it. And when you can finally click is when things will change. Okay. When that finally clicks. So let's talk about if we're not chasing money, if I've gotten your attention so far and you're like, okay, cool. We're not chasing money. What am I actually chasing? And I think there are three things that we really, truly want that we think money will give us. And number one is freedom. Okay. We think that money will give us freedom. When I have the freedom to make any decision that I want without having to check the bank account balance, I will be free. And so we again say, well, I'm just going to put $100,000 months on the vision board because that's where freedom is. But you have no idea what freedom feels like. So you don't really know what freedom is. That's the problem, right? We think it's freedom. Freedom is a feeling. Freedom is not in a bank account balance. And the reason why we know that this is true is because, again, there are people with wildly different bank accounts that I have the blessing of talking to, and they all tell me the same story. If there was finally going to be a dollar amount, right? If freedom was finally in a dollar amount, one of these women would have found it, right? No, because it's not in a dollar amount. Like literally people with millions in the bank are like, oh my God, I gotta make more, I gotta do it faster, right? That's not freedom. That's not freedom at all. So you have to find a different way to feel freedom. If you think money is freedom, you have got to find a way to find freedom and feel freedom now, right? Because most women build businesses for money and actually end up with less freedom. That's why you can't hold it, because your goal is freedom and the business that you're building has no freedom, or the career that you're building has no freedom. And so the best thing that I can have you reframe here is real freedom is self-expression and alignment, not the size of your bank account. Real freedom is being able to wake up in the morning and decide how you spend your time. Real freedom is being able to say no to an opportunity because it's not aligned, it doesn't fit, you don't want to be treated that way. Real freedom is the ability to decide, again, I don't work with clients who aren't a good fit. I don't take opportunities that aren't aligned, that I do work that I love every day, that more of my time is spent doing things that I enjoy than is not. That is freedom. And until you realize that that's what you actually want, is that self-expression, the freedom to do the things that you want that bring you joy, the thing that's been on your heart forever that you've been avoiding doing because you've been too motherfucking busy chasing money. Once you realize that that's actually where the freedom lies, you realize that you already have the freedom. So many of us already have the freedom that we want. We're just too busy ignoring it because we're chasing money. And I'm not judging you because this is me. I have the most incredible life on the planet. I have so much more time than I've ever had. I spend more time with my kids. I have a relationship I'm obsessed with. I've finally reconnected with my body and started training again like an athlete. And it just feels so good. Like I feel better than I've ever felt, and not a whole lot has changed in my financial situation. So if I'm waiting for the money to give me the freedom that is actually in the fact that I get up every single morning and do work that I love and work with clients that I'm obsessed with, and that 90% of my time is spent just doing shit, like to me, that is freedom. I am free. That is what allowed me to disconnect from money. Freedom is not in money. Freedom is in the way that you view your life. If you feel like you have no control over your time, money isn't going to give you freedom. Because for most of you, more money equals more work, which actually means less freedom, which is actually why you can't manifest what you want, because you're saying you want money for freedom. But to you, more money means more work means less freedom. Do you see why you can't vibrate at the energy of freedom when you're vibrating at the energy of not enough? That is why it is not about the money. Because if your nervous system thinks that more money equals more chaos, it will not allow you to make more money. It won't. It can't. It sees it as a threat. And for many of us, it is a threat. It is impacting our health. It is impacting our nervous systems. It's impacting our ability to connect with other people. Because we are so caught up with the chase of more money in the name of freedom, when freedom is right in front of your face and you won't look at it. The second thing I think that we're chasing is safety. Money feels like safety. And so we tell ourselves that once I have a certain amount of money, I will feel safe. The line of credit, the retirement account, the savings, it's the story that is making you feel safe. It's not the dollar amount. And again, we know this to be true because everybody has a different dollar amount. I know people that have a whole lot of money in savings, in retirement, and are still squirreling money away as quickly as possible just in case it runs out. And I know people who have an average amount of money set out for retirement and feel wildly abundant. And I know people with very little who still feel wildly abundant. It's the story you tell yourself. If you tell yourself that your safety is in your 401k and in your bank account, then that's where it will be, and you will never feel safe until you get there. But the truth of the matter is, what I've learned from most people is that once you get to that dollar amount, it's like, well, but that's still only like, but if we live for this much longer, then what will we do? Oh gosh, we need more. Have you ever gotten to that point in your savings account at some point in time where you're like, once I have this in my savings account, I will feel amazing, and gotten there and felt amazing? No, it's never made you feel safe. You were like, but more. I have a 3-month cushion. I think I need 6. Fuck, I think I'd like to have 12. Once I have a 12-month cushion, then we're going to buy that property, right? And then you have a 12-month cushion. You're like, oh, but then so-and-so's got to go to college. Maybe, right? The safety is not in the money. The safety is in the story you tell about the money. You can feel just as safe with money knowing that more than enough always shows up for you every time you need it, regardless of how much is in your bank account right now. You can find safety in that. I know that I am safe with money because it always shows up when I need it. That can create safety in your body right now, and it has nothing to do with your bank account. That's how we know that the safety is not in the bank account, because you can make the choice. What does safety feel like to me? What does it feel like to feel safe? And the truth of the matter is, most of you don't know. I know I certainly didn't. I didn't know what safety felt like. I hadn't felt safe in years. And I made the mistake of thinking that safety meant physical safety. Like, I remember the time my mentor brought up safety to me, and I was like, I don't have a safety issue. I'm good. Got this, right? But that's not the type of safety. We mean like psychological safety in your body. Does your nervous system think it's being chased by a tiger all of the time? If the answer is yes, your bank account balance is not going to matter, because even when there's $12 million in your bank account, if your body still thinks it's being chased by a tiger, it's still going to tell you to run as fast as you can. Safety is about nervous system regulation. It's why there is a nervous system regulation component in all of my work. Your body has to learn how to feel safe in the stillness again. It knows how. It knows how. It simply has forgotten because you're so fucking busy chasing money that it doesn't know how to feel safe. But safety is a feeling you can find right now. I have a lot of my clients like, what does safe feel like? Sometimes, sadly, the answer is like, I don't know. Okay, cool. We need to work on that. Right. And someone will tell me, oh, I feel safe when I'm with my partner. I feel safe when I'm with my family. Cool. So you know what safety feels like. And you know that safety is accessible regardless of the bank balance. It's not about the money. It's about the safety. Where do you feel safe? And if you don't feel safe, find a way to regulate your nervous system. Okay. The final one that I think we all want is belonging. I don't know why, but I have noticed a pattern that women especially equate money with belonging. If I make enough, I will belong in the room, the neighborhood, the masterminds, right? Like I can be in the school pickup line in a certain kind of car that I want to be, so they will like me, right? Or I will get into that mastermind room, and then all of a sudden I will be liked. I will be able to, join that country club, and clearly those people are having way more fun than those of us over here playing bowling. So I will belong. We think it is our belonging. Right? Once I make enough money and I belong in the rooms that I think I belong in, I belong in the conversations that I tell myself I don't belong in. Oftentimes these are work conversations, professional conversations. We think we don't belong in certain professional conversations because of our bank balances. That's not true. That's not true. You have so much value to bring to so many professional conversations. You are just allowing yourself to be limited by money, thinking that money is what actually makes you credible, or money is what makes you belong, or money is your entry in, right? We all know that none of that is true. I will tell you, one of the things I had chased back when I started my career, my business, was Russell Brunson at the time. He's the founder of ClickFunnels. I don't know if you follow him at all. There's really no reason to if this is where you enjoy hanging out. But he had a mastermind. It was called the Inner Circle, and you had to make 7 figures to get into that room. And my goodness, I wanted into that room so badly. I couldn't, like, how do I get in that room? People in the room, they must have all the answers. They must know everything. They must be so happy. Their businesses must be amazing. Their clients must be getting amazing results. They must have the best lives. Yeah. I busted my ass and I wound up in that room, and first found out, actually, you didn't have to make 7 figures to be in the room. As long as you had the $50,000 to get in, they would let you in. I found that to be true. There were plenty of people in that room. I remember once going on a trip called like a Millionaire Girls Club, right? And found out that some of the women in the room weren't making millions of dollars. So not only did I think that I needed to actually hit the dollar amount to be invited into the room, I found out that other people in the room didn't actually make that amount of money. Huh. Weird, right? And then I learned that a lot of the people in that room did not have the things that I wanted because they, in fact, too, were still chasing. They, in fact, too, thought that money was going to make them feel better. They, in fact, too, thought the solution was in that room. Right? And I'm not saying like there have been really cool relationships that have come out of that room. And I've seen other people build really cool relationships with other people in that room. So I'm not judging the room itself. I'm telling you my experience of the room, thinking that the money getting into that room was finally going to make me feel like I belonged, finally going to make me feel like I had made it, finally going to make me feel like I had my shit together. And I didn't. I was actually at my most unhappy and my most unhealthy, and my business felt the most chaotic. But I belonged in the room, damn it. But come to find out, all I had to do was get a $50,000 check to get into that room. I didn't actually have to hit the 7-figure mark. Weird. Right? Belonging comes from within. You have to bring your own belonging. And this is not just professional. You have to bring your own belonging everywhere. You have to bring it in your relationship. You have to bring it in friendships. You have to bring it in your family. You have to bring it. You have to bring it. You are in charge of deciding, I belong here. I belong here. Why? Because I want to be here. I belong here because I'm good enough to be here. I belong here because I add value. I belong here because I love people. I belong here because I care. You are in charge of your belonging. If you need your dollar amount to tell you that your bank to tell you that you belong, you're never going to feel like you belong. Because what's going to happen is you're going to get into that room and you're going to realize that it's not much better here. All these people still have problems. All these people still have shit. Right? Because it's not about the outside thing. If you are chasing something in the name of a result, always going to be outside of you. Right? So as long as you keep believing that freedom, safety, and belonging are found through money, you will always be chasing. Money will always hold the power. And then you will always feel behind and ashamed and jealous and not enough, because there are people who have made the money and they must know something that you don't. They must be better than you. They must be smarter than you. And then you get real mad because you're like, fuck that. They don't actually know more. They're not smarter than me. I discovered that in a room of hundreds of people making 7 figures or more, supposedly. I didn't find too many of them. There were certainly people who were brilliant at business and had more experience and had better ideas, but none of them actually had more skills or acumen than I did, right? What they had was a belief in themselves. They brought their own goddamn belonging. I didn't have that. I thought the belonging was going to be in the room. The people who brought their belonging to the room got a lot of value out of that room, right? It was not the room itself. But for me, I just felt ashamed. And then I felt jealous and I felt like I didn't know enough because I don't belong here either. I actually hit the benchmark to get into the room and I don't belong here either. What the fuck is wrong with me? Right? That's the energy I was operating from. Of course, I didn't get any value out of that room because I was too busy feeling judgmental and ashamed. I was judging the other people, but it was really for me. The judgment and shame was mine. Even though I had the money, the belonging wasn't there because it's an inside job. The safety wasn't there. I felt so unsafe, right? So the shift here, what I want you to walk away from this show from is the money isn't the solution. And when you take your power back from money, when you decide I am no longer going to let money be the only goal that decides whether I'm winning or not, you actually reclaim your ability to create. Because if all of your power is in money, you're not creating, you're reacting. The money is telling you what you can and can't do. The money is telling you what you can and can't buy. The money is telling you where you can and can't travel to, right? It's hard to create from that place. So when you say, yes, money does dictate whether or not I'm getting on that plane, it actually has nothing to do with my worthiness, with my value, with my safety, with my security. It just has to do with whether or not I can afford a plane ticket right now. And that's not that serious. It's not that serious. So if you want to reclaim your ability to create, you have to detach from the idea that the solution is in money and realize that the solution is inside of you. When you face the shame and the guilt and the stories that you're carrying, that's when you unlock true abundance, vibrational abundance. And that's where what I like to call is fuck you money. But my mom doesn't like it when I use the F word. So I call it magic money instead because fuck you money is apparently, I don't know, she doesn't like it, right? But you can make fuck you money when you stop chasing it. Because when you actually set the intention of creating a life of wholeness, of truth, of alignment, of fulfillment, of love, of joy, of impact, of safety, security, and freedom, you become a magnet for the money. But as long as you chase the money, you will always feel like it's not enough. And so what I really hope here is this was not obviously a how to manifest more money. It's how to take your power back. This requires a deep inner shift, a very big perspective shift that not everybody is ready to make. If you're not ready to make it, I need you to listen to this podcast over and over and over again until you're ready to make the shift. Stop setting money as the goal because you think it solves all the problem, and set the goal. Create the vision of what you actually want. When you create the vision of what you actually want based on what you actually feel, and you approach it as somebody who is the creator of your reality, you will be able to create it so much easier and so much faster. And create it from a place of, once I hit that dollar amount, then. Because that dollar amount isn't coming. That day isn't coming. There is no there. It's only here. It's not the money. You want the way you think it is going to make you feel. And as soon as you realize that you can start making progress towards your goals so much faster in the form of feelings, because there's so many things in your life that currently make you feel free, that currently make you feel safe, that currently make you feel like you belong because you're in charge of it, is when you'll realize that the money is the byproduct. The money is the byproduct of realizing that you are already those things. But if you need money to be those things, you'll always be out of alignment. You'll always be out of your power. You will always be at the mercy of something outside of yourself. That is the work. It is not about the money. If something inside of you just clicked a little bit today and you want to have a conversation, let's talk about it. Because I will tell you the truth. I've yet to get on the phone with a woman and talk to them about one of them programs and then be like, but money comes up every time. But money? I can't. Money? Yeah. But to me, that just tells me that money still has your power. And if you'd like to take it back, I'd love to talk. See you next week. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Uncensored Self podcast. If this conversation cracked something open for you, trust that that's the work. And share this episode with a woman in your life who's ready to stop performing and start creating. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe, leave a review. It helps this message reach the women who need it most. Remember, you're the creator. The rules are yours. And your uncensored self, she already knows what to do. Keep leading, keep listening, keep becoming.